I'm going to show you how to play as the Green Power Ranger in Dungeons & Dragons. I grew up during peak Power Ranger time, right when they came into the forefront, and the Green Ranger was always a pretty big favorite. Now, I already built the Power Rangers in D&D, but the Green Ranger is definitely different. But we got to start with the race. We're going to stick with human because you're from Earth, that's fairly normal. This comes with one skill and one feat. The skill we're going to choose is Deception because there is a part in the show where the Green Power Ranger becomes kind of evil and is a little more deceptive, but that's only for a small portion, so I just wanted to get that skill out of the way now. But when it comes to the feat, we're going to save that until after we cover the stats, because it's going to be pretty relevant. However, if you like D&D related stuff, and if you like this kind of video, feel free to subscribe, because that helps this channel in insane ways. Not to mention, if you do anything to interact with this video, whether it's liking, subscribing, commenting, any of that stuff, it really helps the algorithm, so please do any one of those things, and I will be insanely appreciative. And if you happen to be subscribed to this channel, apparently you roll more nat 20s. But let's get back to the build. You are a student in the Power Ranger show, so we're going to take one of the student backgrounds. Most of the student backgrounds expand our spell lists in various ways, so we're going to choose the one that winds up helping us the most, which is the Quandrix student. This expands our spell list for very specific spells that I want to make sure I grab. Quandrix student also gives you proficiency in nature and arcana, but it also gives us 2 cantrips and 1 first level spell. The 2 cantrips we're going to grab are guidance and mage hand, mostly because you become a bit of a de facto leader amongst the Power Rangers, and when you upgrade to being the white Power Ranger, you do move around your short sword / dagger thing that's the white tiger. You can wind up kind of making that float around, at least in the Power Rangers movie. Then when it comes to the first level spell, we're just going to grab silvery barbs. It's so beneficial to use as a reaction that it's always great to have in your back pocket. Then when it comes to the stats, you might assume that I would just amp up our dexterity and our wisdom and go into monk for all the martial arts stuff, but that's not going to be the route we go this time. So in the Power Rangers universe, you have that like gold shoulder piece thing that goes over your chest, and in the Power Rangers movie, they have less flimsy fabric for costumes and more like protective armor. So because of that, I want to make sure we can use a bit of armor, and going with a monk doesn't really help us with that. So we're actually going to boost up our strength and our charisma, because this is going to be one of the better ways we can pull off this build. And because we took strength, I want to make sure we get some sort of martial arts by being able to do unarmed strikes. So the feat we took by becoming a variant human is going to be Fighting Initiate. This gives us a fighting style, so we're going to choose unarmed fighting. The unarmed fighting style makes it so whenever we're attacking with just our bare fist, we can do a d6 of damage plus our strength modifier, hence putting so many points into strength. But if we have both of our hands free, we can actually do a d8 of damage instead. And if you wind up grappling a creature, you automatically deal a d4 of damage just because they're being grappled. Now we already have the fighting style, but I still want to jump into our first level, which is still going to be a fighter. Becoming a fighter gives us proficiency in all weapons, all armor, and even shields if we wanted it. You also get to choose 2 skills when you become a fighter, so we're going to take athletics and perception. Now we have a decent amount of strength, so we can stick with heavier armor, which I know might not seem characteristic, but we have to amp up the idea that those shoulder pads are maybe really heavy. And because we're wearing armor and we just so happen to have a fighting style at our disposal, because at first level fighter you get a fighting style and we already have one, so let's go ahead and grab defense. This boosts up our armor class whenever we're wearing any sort of armor by a +1. Additionally, at first level of fighter you get second wind, so as a bonus action you can regain some health equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. At second level of fighter you get action surge, so you can actually take 2 actions in a single turn, once per short or long rest. Then at third level of fighter, you get a martial archetype, and this is your fighter subclass. And I need a little more dragon in this build, because the Green Ranger is the Green Ranger because he is the embodiment of a dragon, and he can summon the Dragonzord. So because of this, we're going to choose Purple Dragon Knight. We'll just have to cross out the purple and make it green. This is also known as a banneret, and it comes from the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. And this is actually a bit more of a leader amongst fighters, and really boosting up their allies. And that's exemplified by the very first feature you get from this subclass, called Rallying Cry. So when you use your second wind feature that can help out your allies, you can choose up to 3 creatures within 30 feet of you, and each of those creatures regains hit points equal to your fighter level, as long as they can at least see or hear you. Then at 4th level of fighter, you get an ability score improvement. So let's go ahead and just boost up our strength by 2 points, because that's what we're using for most of our attacking, at least for right now. And then attacking gets boosted up at 5th level when you get extra attack. So now you can have 2 attacks per action. At 6th level of fighter, you get another ability score improvement, so we're going to go ahead and max out that strength really quickly. Then at 7th level of fighter, you get another feature from being a purple or green Dragon Knight. This one's called Royal Envoy. This will grant you proficiency in the Persuasion skill. And if you happen to already have Persuasion, you could wind up gaining proficiency in a couple other select skills, which if you wanted a backup, I'd choose Insight. But on top of all of that, your proficiency bonus is doubled for using your Persuasion skill. Then at 8th level of fighter, we get another ability score improvement. So I'm going to go ahead and boost up our Charisma by 2 points because we're going to use that very soon. Then at 9th level of fighter, we get Indomitable, allowing us to re-roll a saving throw once per long rest. Then at 10th level of fighter, we get another feature from our subclass called Inspiring Surge. So if you use your Action Surge feature, you can select one other creature that's an ally of yours within 60 feet of you, and they can make one ranged or melee attack as their reaction. Now, if you happen to have a rogue in your party, that's probably the best way to go because it will allow them to get sneak attack because it's on your turn, not on their turn, and they can only get 1 sneak attack per turn. So just calling that out. But we're going to most likely use it for something else shortly. Then at 11th level of fighter, you get another extra attack. So now you can attack 3 times per action. So if you use Action Surge, you can attack 6 times, and at the same time allow one of your allies to attack again, meaning that you're getting a total of 7 attacks, kind of. Then at 12th level of fighter, we get another ability score improvement. So we're going to go ahead and quickly max out our Charisma, because at the next level, we're going to multi-class. Because one of the key things that the green Power Ranger can do is somehow take his dagger, blow into it through his mask, and use it like a flute that somehow makes a trumpet noise. So we need to do all of that with some highly skilled performance. So we're going to go ahead and multi-class into Bard. When you multi-class into Bard, you get to choose one instrument that you're proficient with. So we're going to call that a flute despite it making trumpet noises for whatever reason. And we get proficiency in 1 more skill, so we're going to choose Performance. We do get some spell casting right away, but I'm going to cover all of that in one big chunk shortly. First, let's cover some other Bard stuff. At 1st level, you get Bardic Inspiration. So now you can inspire your allies in your fighter stuff, but you can also inspire them by being a bard, granting a D6 to be used on any attack roll, saving throw, or an ability check. This die increases to a D8 at 5th level and does increase beyond that, but we're not going to get any higher than that benchmark anyways because we don't have that many levels left. At 2nd level of Bard, you get Jack of all trades, so whenever you have to make an ability check in something that you're not proficient with, you get to add half of your proficiency bonus. Also at 2nd level, you get Song of Rest, so you can help people regain some hit points on a short rest, allowing you to boost it up by playing some music and encouraging your allies, regaining an extra 1d6 hit points. Then at 3rd level of Bard, you get Expertise, doubling your proficiency bonus with 2 skills. So we're going to boost up our Perception and Athletics. But also at 3rd level of Bard, you get to choose a Bard College, which is your Bard subclass. And we need to make sure we can summon the Dragonzord. And one of the best ways to do that is with our College of Creation. It will take us a little while to get that Dragonzord, so if that's kind of an important part of why you wanted to build this character, you might want to mix up the order in which you take levels in Fighter and Bard, but I'd like to break it up this way to make it a little easier to follow, instead of jumping back and forth over and over again. But when you take this subclass, you get Mote of Potential. So when you grant a Bardic Inspiration to any of your allies, they get to use it for different things. But whatever they use it for, it gets an additional benefit thanks to this feature. So if they use it for an ability check, they actually get to roll their Bardic Inspiration twice, and then they get to choose which roll they want to use, basically giving your Bardic Inspiration advantage. If they use their Bardic Inspiration on an attack roll instead, they can actually deal some extra thunder damage equal to whatever's rolled on that die, and it winds up hitting everybody of your choice within 5 feet of whoever was inspired in the first place. But they have to make a Constitution save throw against your spell save DC, or else they're not going to take any damage. But either way, some more damage is always helpful in a fight. Finally, if they use that Bardic Inspiration on a saving throw instead, that creature will gain some temporary hit points equal to whatever's rolled on the die, plus your charisma modifier. The other feature you get is performance of creation, so you can actually create an object if you really want to. This doesn't apply to the Green Ranger quite as much, but it's still relevant to note. Then at 4th level of Bard, you get another ability score improvement, and we need to be able to take a few more hits. So let's go ahead and take the feat Tough, giving us an extra 2 hit points of health per level of this overall build. At 5th level of Bard, you get Font of Inspiration, allowing you to regain all uses of your Bardic Inspiration on a short rest as well as a long rest when you used to have to just wait for long rests. Then at 6th level of Bard, you get Counter Charm, giving somebody advantage against any frightened or charmed effects. Also at 6th level of Bard, we finally get our Dragonzord, because thanks to the College of Creation, we get a feature called Animating Performance. This allows us to animate some sort of item that is either large or smaller. So if you have a large statue of a dragon, you can then turn that into your Dragonzord. It becomes a large or smaller construct. Its armor class becomes 16. It has a number of hit points equal to 10 plus 5 times your Bard level, which is a decent amount for somebody that's just helping you out. And you won't usually use them until the end of a fight anyways, so having them hang out for a long time taking tons and tons of hits usually doesn't happen. They have a speed of 30 feet and they can fly for 30 feet if they really want to, which could also apply to the White Ranger that the Green Ranger becomes because they get that eagle instead. They're immune to a bunch of different types of damage and conditions. They have dark vision, their proficiency bonus is the same as whatever yours is, and very notably, they do have immutable form, so I was going to go ahead and take the Enlarge Reduce spell from being a Quandrix student, but unfortunately, because they have immutable form, you can't enlarge them to become huge, which is a little unfortunate, but there are always some limitations here and there. They also have the feature Irrepressible Dance, so any creature that starts its turn within 10 feet of it gets either a boost or decrease to their movement speed by 10 feet. So this can help your allies and hurt your enemies. Then finally, they have one action they can do, which is Force Empowered Slam. This is a melee weapon attack, so you can think of this as the Dragonzord hitting with its fist or swinging its tail. It uses your spell attack modifier for the hit, and it hits for 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus in damage. And very notably, it doesn't actually take this action on its own. You have to use your bonus action to command it to attack. Otherwise, it's just going to do the Irrepressible Dance and just kind of dodge things that are coming at it. But we're going to find other ways to amp it up in just a second. We just got to get through a couple more levels of Bard. At 7th level of Bard, you don't get any notable features, but you do get an upgrade to your spellcasting. And then at 8th level of Bard and 20th level overall, you do get an ability score improvement, but we're going to go ahead and take another feat. We need a bit more dragon stuff in our life, so we're going to take Gift of the Metallic Dragon. I was tempted to take Gift of the Chromatic Dragon, but that wouldn't help us as much, and we would just be stuck with doing green dragon stuff. So I wanted to go ahead and choose the Metallic Dragon because the Dragonzord is pretty metallic. Gift of the Metallic Dragon gives you Draconic Healing, so you learn the Cure Wounds spell, and you can cast it once for free, and you get the feature Protective Wings. And we're going to think of this as those shoulder pads / chest thing that you have, because it allows you to manifest some protective wings. So when you or another creature within 5 feet of you gets hit by an attack, you can activate this feature, granting a bonus to yours or that creature's armor class against that particular attack roll. The bonus equals your proficiency bonus, and you can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. It's kind of a small boost this far into the build, but I wanted a little more dragon stuff. But now that we covered all the levels, let's go ahead and take care of some of the spells. There's only going to be a few that I make sure I highlight. The rest I'll throw up on the character sheet, but I'll get the important ones done here. You want to grab Vicious Mockery from being a bard, which is just you talking while moving your hands around to an unreasonable degree, because apparently that's the only way that Power Rangers are able to talk, by moving their hands constantly. Grab Guiding Bolt for some big sparkly thing to hit your enemies and allow somebody to have advantage on their next attack against them. Grab Fairy Fire to target a large group of enemies and make it so you have advantage on attacking any of them. Also make sure to grab Featherfall, because there's lots of times where the Power Rangers are jumping from insane distances. Grab Heroism, because you're the Power Rangers, you're heroes, and Heroism is a pretty awesome spell because it constantly boosts your health over and over again. Grab Hold Person, because that's just generally good to have in your arsenal, because whenever you're fighting a person, if they're under the effect of Hold Person, everything against them is a crit. You want to make sure you grab Pyrotechnics, because it wouldn't be Power Rangers without some Pyrotechnics. And then one other spell I have to make sure we mention is Haste. We get this from being a Quandrix student, which is one of the main reasons I chose that particular student type. Now, haste gets a ton of benefits. It doubles your movement speed, it increases your armor class by 2, gives you advantage on dexterity saving throws, and it even gives you an extra action, which you can use for any of the normal action stuff, or you can use it to make one attack. So if you wind up casting haste on your construct that you created, aka your Dragonzord, they can now take an additional attack as part of their fairly strong attacks that they're already doing, which is actually going to be stronger than most of the attacks that you do. Combine that with Inspiring Surge, and that means that now your Dragonzord can attack 3 times in a round. And if you're using that action surge to create the Inspiring Surge, that means that you also get 6 attacks as part of this turn. So 9 total attacks between you and your Dragonzord, not to mention you're probably punching most of the time, but if you want to use your dagger flute thing, you can do that too. This is a bit more of a fun build to play around with. I definitely recommend mixing up the levels here and there so you can get your Dragonzord a bit sooner, but I really like the synergy of this multi-class because it allows you to boost up your Dragonzord in multiple ways. If there's anything you do differently with this build, let me know in the comments down below. But if you want access to the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the description down below. We can be just as awesome as some of these people scrolling on by, or my player character patrons. Rave Lord, Nicole Biliak, Alone, The Holy 999s, Christopher Sams, Dark of Skies, Barrow Scruel, Zach, Felix Ulick, The 10586, Kevin Shirley, Zephyros, That Funny Man 57, Joshua Maynard, CGC 2014, Panda Milkshake, Ted Z, Andrew Nobles, Karkat Kitsune, Decker Joint, Set 13, Viral Nervar, Daniel Gaplin, The Dino 21, and Salvador. Then going above and beyond that are my Dungeon Master level patrons that I play D&D with. T. Brownie, Julie B. De Oliveira, Just Wolf, Shane Gilroy, Daniel Saffler, Comrade ZX, and GameSteak. And finally, if you made it all the way to the end of this build, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here hoping to roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to play as the Green Power Ranger in Dungeons & Dragons. And little note, I really wish I could have given him the Thaumaturgy cantrip, just so you can say, "Aya!" every time you wound up punching, and unfortunately it didn't work out that way. But I still covered the rest, so I still think it turned out to be a pretty solid build.